first of all, let's take a look at this model of the kidney. On the outside, we see a dark, thin band, and that's known as the kidney's cortex. So Dan mentioned in an earlier video that cortex literally means bark, like the bark on a tree, the superficial outer layer. Deep to that, we see the kidney's medulla. And in the cortex and the medulla, that's where we see the nephrons. So what is the role of the kidney? Well, the role of the kidney is to filter the blood. So blood will enter the kidney from the renal artery at vertebral level L1, and then it will go through a series of smaller and smaller vessels, which you'll learn in block 2. And from there, it will enter the nephron. So the blood is pushed through, and everything apart from the red blood cells in a healthy individual will come out, and that's known as the filtrate. So from the filtrate, we can then select, the body can select using transporters different things that it wants to take back in. For example, glucose and other substances that we need to maintain the electrolyte balance in the body. Anything we don't want is then excreted. So that will firstly come through the renal pyramid, into the minor calyces, into the major calyces, and then into the renal pelvis, which will connect to the ureter. So if we look at the schematic on the board, this is our kidney connected to our ureter. The ureter will connect to our bladder, and then we see the urethra exiting the bladder. There's different parts of the urethra that you'll learn throughout the year, and this section is surrounded, this section of the urethra is surrounded by an organ only seen in males, which is the prostate. It then works its way through the spongy part of the penis to the meatus, where urine will eventually come out of the penis. So if we look on this model, we can see some of the things we've been talking about. So this is the ureter running down and entering the urinary bladder, and then from the urinary bladder we see the urethra coming out and the prostate on either side, just inferior to the floor of the bladder. Then we see the urethra entering the penis and through the spongy part of the penis, and then entering the meatus at the glans.
So we're doing the internal and the external female genitalia. Let's start with the internal. So we have ovaries either side, and they're connected to fallopian tubes. Now, we used to call them fallopian tubes, we now call them uterine tubes. And this will empty our eggs into the uterus, which contains a number of portions, but as far as we're concerned here, it contains the fundus, the top, like the fundus of the stomach. It contains the body, and it contains the cervix. Cervix meaning cervical, the neck region, remember on Shelley, they've got the cervical vertebrae. This connects through to the vagina here. So we'll just quickly label these. Now obviously this is not detailed. There's a lot more detail that you will learn, but having a good overall geographical layout is obviously very important. So we have the fundus of the uterus, we have the body, we have the cervix, and then we have the vagina. Okay, so the ovary, the egg, the ovum, which is the female gonad, will enter the uterine tube and will migrate down. Fertilization, where sperm meets egg, ordinarily occurs within the uterine tube itself, and then when sperm meets egg, it forms a zygote. That zygote passes down into the uterus, where it's implanted into the wall, usually the fundus or the body. It can implant in other areas, which is called an ectopic pregnancy. That can have many ramifications, including hemorrhage and many things you'll go into in block 5. So, that is roughly the internal female genitalia. Now external, many different names for this region. So we're going to call it the vulva. So the vulva has a few different areas. We'll go into the major ones here. We start with the prepuce here, which is the hood that surrounds the clitoris. Okay? Now, on the most lateral borders, you have the labia majora, which run like this. You have the external urethral orifice, most anteriorly, and then you will have the vaginal orifice, slightly lower down, and then you have the anus here. Now, your labia majora are fat pads covered by skin quite superficially. They connect over the prepuce of the clitoris and over the region called the mons pubis, which literally means the mountain, which is just a big fat pad, protective elements. So, we have the prepuce, which means hood. We have the clitoris, we have the labia majora. We have the anus here. And then we have two orifices. This one is the vaginal orifice. And this one is the external urethral orifice. And then finally here we have folds of skin, fat, and neurovasculature called the labia minora. Now in between the labia minora is a space, a potential space, called the vestibule of the vagina. So that's flanked by both portions of the labia minora. So just to recap here, so we have the prepuce covering the clitoris, we have the labia majora and minora, we have the external urethral orifice, which is the bit at which the urethra enters the womb, and then we have the vaginal orifice, the external vaginal orifice, mons pubis on the top, and the anus down below, with the vestibule, which we'll label here, vestibule of the vagina.
That's really good. Okay.
What? It's like a fucking lollipop.
Some may think this is a lollipop. Too tired.
I should have had my haircut a month ago, and I should have shaved and worn a t-shirt that was ironed. I'm licking the board.
Okay, so if we look at this line, this is what happened in my last heartbeat. I tried to get going, and then I died. The end. This time we're talking a bit about kidney anatomy and some other stuff. What other stuff?
Some other stuff.
Some other stuff.
You know what we're doing.
I don't.
We're doing the genitourinary system.
Okay.
The video is called.
And we'll also mention some potential things that can you do that can. Along the edge here, this darker layer, that's the medulla. That's not the medulla, that's the cortex. Okay, Dan, get back. Ureter, the prostate, the bladder, and then Dan's going to speak about other.
Why did you say other
Okay.
Why did you say other You were one word away from it being my turn.
Okay, let's go.
One word.
Okay.
Welcome to my God. Rob.
That squeezes, filtrate into the. Where are the nephrons? And then this enters into the renal pyramid, which will then connect with.
Pelvis.
What are you looking at, Shirley? If we start by taking a look at this kidney model. Why are you laughing?
You looking at Shelley has no eyes.
They're all looking at me. Look, that one is as well. Jesus. Side, we can see the thin, thick sausage.
That was actually really funny.
Oh! Okay. Down, over the top of the iliac artery, and down into the bladder. That's the uterus. Down